and things getting physical when Democrats stormed a New Jersey ICE facility. Those lawmakers continue to defend their actions and even blaming the agents there.
People just are afraid of this un-American hyperactivity, this weaponization of law enforcement.
We were getting reports prior to our tour that children were there. We did not know the status of the facility or the status of the detainees. And so that is why we showed up there to do our job.
They made this a violent scene that we were unfortunately all a part of. And it's something that should really shock all Americans.
DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin joins us now. So Tricia, I guess the big question is what happened that day? It looks like law enforcement were trying to do what they do every single day, is transport people that are illegal, that have been put into custody. They normally secure that area. It looks like that the mayor tried to block that as well as members of Congress. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Lawrence, these members of Congress and protesters, a mob of protesters, stormed this gate to try and enter the detention facility. The detention facility holds members of MS-13, child rapists, murderers, arsonists, drug traffickers, American killers. And for them to try and get these individuals out is just beyond the pale. We know that the mayor, we know these members of Congress want their 15 minutes of fame so desperately, but they're willing to do it at the peril of the safety of our brave law enforcement and even the detainees as well, Lawrence.
Tricia, what?
Look at the Democrats incriminating themselves. Why are they doing this? What, for political theater? Man, look at that. A fullback just trying to ram people. And for what? You know, I mean, that make them look bad. They just look at them. Incredible.
It was a very tense situation. It unfortunately did not have to be like that. They created that confrontation. They created that chaos.
So did your agents create this confrontation?
Absolutely not, Lawrence. They were just simply doing their job and trying to keep the facility safe. Body slamming, body ramming, striking an officer, pushing, shoving, whatever you want to call it. It sure looks like a...
I'm annoyed by this situation because if any other private citizen or did this to a cop, they would have been arrested. You can't bulldoze an officer at a detention center, especially when they're having MS-13 Trinidad Agua that they're trying to transport inside of the facility. They tried to bum rush the ICE agents there and they assaulted them and they should be charged as a result of it. I said the same thing, by the way, during January 6th. Anybody that targets law enforcement should be arrested. We can't have that.
Yeah, it looks like this congresswoman, I wouldn't say body slam, bulldoze. She was like a fullback. Let me just put my head down and try and knock people over. Are you crazy?
Can we share that video?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she picked anybody up and body slammed him, kind of like, Bruno Sammartino. But what you did is you try to just...
You can't rush them.
Yeah, you stormed the gates. And by the way, they ended up getting a tour of the facility.
Yeah.
And then they look fine.
Okay, in this clip, we're going to see how Trump is about to make it rain and the liberals are getting pissed and they hate to report the good stuff that Trump is doing. He's going to make it rain for all of us.
Breaking news this morning, a major breakthrough in the trade war between the United States and China. The two sides making a surprise announcement after a weekend of talks in Switzerland under the agreement unveiled by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. For 90 days, the U.S. is going to cut its tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% down to 30%. And China will cut its levies on U.S. imports from 125% to 10%. During these 90 days, then, the countries say that the negotiations continue. Globally, markets are cheering the news. U.S. stock futures, we'll take a look at that, way up ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street after weeks of wild volatility that we've all been experiencing and covering over President Trump's tariffs, which have disrupted supply chains and raised recession fears. President Trump will likely be asked about all of this when he signs an executive order later this morning that he says will be to lower prescription drug prices. Let's get over to the White House right now. CNN's Elena Treen is standing by. Break all of this down for us right now as we know it so far, Elena.
Well, okay, I mean, this is a major breakthrough between the United States and China following these talks in Geneva this weekend. The Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced in a 3 a.m. press conference that both countries have agreed to dramatically scale back these tariffs for at least 90 days. Now, we're expected to see these tariffs be rolled back starting May 14th. That's just 2 days from now. And I want to reiterate how you laid this out. So essentially, the United States is going to temporarily lower its overall tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% to 30%, while China is going to roll back its tariffs on American imports from 125% to 10%. And Kate, I cannot overstate enough how big of a change this is, particularly from a White House that has really tried to make China the key part of this broader tariff policy that the president has put forth. Despite having lowered tariffs on all other countries, really, China has been increasingly the one country that they wanted to kind of make an example out of. And just days ago, I'd remind you that the president was saying continuing this trade war with China was good policy because it essentially meant the United States wasn't losing money to Beijing. Now, I think, just taking into all of this into account is even more notable when you recognize that this weekend, the talks in Geneva between the United States and China were the first time the two sides really got together and actually talked about this, not even just face to face, but even over the phone to hash out some of these details and try to find some sort of off-ramp to the escalating trade war. Now, already, Kate, we are hearing from this administration much friendlier rhetoric toward China, much more positive and optimistic view of how we're going to be moving forward in a United States-Chinese relationship. And Scott Bessent kind of highlighted that during the press conference when he said that neither country wants a decoupling. Listen to how he put it.
The consensus from both delegations this weekend is neither side wants a decoupling. And what had occurred with these very high tariffs, as Ambassador Greer said, was the equivalent of an embargo, and neither side wants that.
Now, Kate, as you mentioned, we're already seeing global markets kind of buoyed by this news, and there's no doubt that the president and this White House are going to spin this deal as a major win for them. But again, I just want to highlight how big of a deal this is and how much of a change in posture this is from the Trump administration, particularly, again, given their repeated insistence on needing to hold China accountable. Now, and I also think, just to make clear, that the inflationary reaction we've seen to some of the president's tariff policies, particularly as it relates to China, and also, the economic concerns overall, the impact of his tariffs on the markets, that definitely played a role in all of this. Kate?
Elena, thank you very much. Much more to learn about all of this morning still.
Like a party.
Sarah.
All right, new this morning, President Trump's promise to usher in an era of American energy dominance may not be working out as many as the industry had hoped. A new report from S&P projects that U.S. oil production will shrink in 2026. CNN's Matt Egan is here. As with most things, there's some important nuance in all this.
Yeah, John, there is. But what's interesting here is that there's been so much gloom and doom in the oil industry. It's kind of surprising because, yes, the president promised to slash red tape and to usher in this period of energy dominance. But what's happened is that oil prices are so low because of the trade war, because of recession fears, that there's these new projections out that oil production will actually decline next year. This is from S&P. They are projecting a decline in 2026. This would be pretty rare, right? Just the first time since COVID, second time in the last decade. And when you look at the trend for oil production, you can see it was really gangbusters. About a decade ago, it did bounce back from COVID, but it has started to level out a bit. And this is important because, look, this is one of the bigger industries in the United States. It's one that the president did receive a lot of support from, but oil prices, they've actually gone down by about 20% since the president took office. Again, this is because OPEC has produced more oil. It's also because of these concerns about the economy. One thing I would note though, John, and you know this is a boom to bust industry, right? So it's entirely possible that the trade war breakthrough with China could end up driving prices even higher, and that could give this industry a bit of a boost. I would note that this morning, U.S. oil prices are up almost 4%.
Yeah, and again, this is because it's not worth the investment. Oil producers won't invest if prices are so low. but low prices, might be okay for consumers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, what's bad for big oil is very good for much of Main Street. We look at the gas prices. U.S. average $3.14 a gallon across the country today. That's down 6 cents from a month ago, much cheaper than a year ago. And when we look at the map of the United States, there's over a dozen states where the average price right now is below $2.90 a gallon, including North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, New Mexico, Texas. And so, yes, the fact that oil prices are muted, that is one of the bigger positives in this economy, and it's certainly helpful when it comes to the cost of living.
Yeah, look, the president's been touting low oil prices. It's just you probably can't have super low oil prices and drill, baby, drill at the same time.
They don't
It
add
doesn't
up.
work like that. Maddie,
Well,
great
there
to see
you have
Thank
it,
very much.
family. Winning, winning, winning. Cost is going down, gas is going down, food is going down. Promises made, promises kept. Just keep on winning, and the liberals hate it. Win it, win it, win it, win it.